manufacturing industry, like the rest of the world, has been deeply affected by the pandemic and has had a shift towards new practices to support today's operational requirements. While each manufacturer has a unique story, the business challenges they've all had to face are along a few similar fronts. In order to understand the future of manufacturing, it's really important to understand the industry's current situation and how leaders are positioning their companies for future growth. Please welcome on stage our moderator for the first panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, Vice President TQM and BE TAFE, Mr. Ashok Muthuswamy. Everybody, can we clap and welcome him? Mr. Muthuswamy will help us get the best perspectives from our panelists. Let's welcome our panelists on stage. Let's clap and welcome Mr. Chetan Chawla, President Corporate Quality RSP Group, who has close to 4 decades of industry experience across various automobile OEMs and expertise in quality management, process engineering, vendor development, project management, wave, and lean manufacturing. Let's also welcome on stage Aseem Joshi, CEO, India Business, GAMM Pfaudler. Has more than 20 years of rich experience in technology, consulting, strategy, sales, manufacturing. Started his career with IBM in the US, setting up cutting-edge semiconductor fabrication plant and bringing innovative chips to the market. We'd also like to welcome on stage Viral Shah, Executive Director of the 6-decade-old logistics group, VTrans India Limited. With growing importance technology, especially the past 2 to 3 years, the group has formed a digital committee. So here we have our panel, which is all set for the first panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so glad to be here. As some of the earlier speakers, Mr. Doble and Mr. Tyagarajan mentioned, it's so good to be here in front of this packed hall and have this conversation in real world instead of doing it virtually like how we have been doing in the last few years. And my sincere thanks to Bibor and the colleagues at Manufacturing Today for putting up this wonderful platform for exchanging perspectives, right? I mean, only when we exchange perspectives, we can formulate our own strategies and implementation plans. So that's very nice of them to do that. And also, sincerely, I would like to thank the Manufacturing Today for providing this opportunity for us to share our views. And really, the Doble and Tyagarajan set the bar high, so I'm sure that we need to see how we can match up, right? I mean, some of the points they shared, which include success stories in manufacturing, and more importantly, they also shared challenges that we are facing in the manufacturing world, right? So in this panel where I have very, very eminent colleagues, and here what we will specifically do is we will see what are the challenges that we are facing immediately in the near term, as well as opportunities that we are facing right now. And I will also be requesting the panelists to share how they have surmounted the challenges and leveraged the opportunities, and I will share my own inputs as well from my organization. Right, so that said, we will also be, some of the points that both Mr. Doble and Mr. Tyagarajan mentioned, like China plus one strategy, sustainability, competing with other developed nations, all those aspects also we will be quickly touching upon. So with that, let me summarize some of the challenges that we are facing in the manufacturing world. One is obviously rising commodity prices, rising input material costs, fuel, logistics, and so on and so forth, and shortage of skilled manpower, and then very importantly, sporadic fluctuations in demand, and higher efficiencies expected by business as well as customers in terms of productivity, cost, delivery, environment, and so on and so forth. And then what we can't ignore is the pandemic-related issues, how the pandemic disrupted the value chain, right from forecasting to fulfillment, and all stringent environment regulations and expectations. So these are some of the challenges which, I have an excellent pool of panelists who will be sharing their views. And furthermore, some of the opportunities are also there. It's not just challenges, there are also some unprecedented opportunities which we didn't see earlier, right? Like that would include Industry 4.0, 5.0, cloud, AI, ML, and digital twin, all these things which have become very simple to pursue nowadays. It has all been simplified. And sensors, remote monitoring, connected devices, IoT, AR and VR, and then incentives for making in India sustainability and all that stuff. So, we will also be quickly discussing about how to leverage these opportunities that we have in front of us. So with that, let me ask my first question to Chetan. And Chetan, this question is about input materials, inflation, like steel, whatever commodity, aluminum, fuel, and logistics cost. What has been your experience in handling this surge in the input prices, and how have you managed? So over to you, Chetan.
Thank you, Ashok, and it's a pleasure being here with such a nice forum where it's not only we share our experience, we take back a lot of learnings from you all as well. Thank you, Ashok. You touched upon a very important subject of the rising commodity prices, and it's a constant challenge. Well, based on the competition and a cutthroat pricing, it becomes very, very important that you cannot pass on everything to the customer. So it is a challenge with the engineering industry also, where we constantly will have to work on continuous improvement, doing value engineering. Like for example, we work in our industry on the lightweighting, reducing the material content, improving the productivity. As you know that prices for everything, whether it is power, commodity, labor, everything goes up. So we need to touch upon all these subjects and see where all you can cut down on the cost and still be able to pass on. In fact, as you see, most OEMs would expect on tier 1 suppliers to give certain price reduction despite the increase of commodity. So it's a tough challenge. So unless we work on the improvements in terms of improving the productivity, in terms of reduction of the input content into it, we won't be able to meet this challenge. So, well, this is precisely the thing where we need to be focusing on.
Thank you, Chetan. Viral, anything that you want to add here on this aspect?
So yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Manufacturing India for inviting me to this forum, and I'm blessed to be among these distinguished forum members. I think I'm the odd one out being from the logistics sector, but that goes to show that manufacturing also, has given importance to logistics, and logistics should be given the importance, because supply chain plays a very important role in the manufacturing sector. In the COVID-19 times, we have seen that there have been a lot of disruptions, and one of the key reasons for the disruptions has been because of the supply chain, All the manufacturing industries' supply chains were disrupted, typically for the non-essential commodities because of the various restrictions that were placed, and that has really contributed to the multiple problems of the manufacturing industry.
Thank you. And anything you want to add, Asi?
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing. I think, we talked about challenges and opportunities. In many ways, they're two sides of the same coin. In every challenge, there is an opportunity. And so, for example, this case where we talked about material price inflation, clearly there's a big challenge. Every manufacturing industry is facing it. But at the same time, there is a lot of opportunity in it. And I'd like to give an example of how we have seen, real benefits that we can capture. So, we use a lot of steel in our product. And in the past, we'd buy steel, we'd cut it to fabricate whatever we had to, and we moved on, and whatever was left was scrap. Now, as soon as material price increases so much, we realized, hey, there is software available where you can do much better layouting of your steel and thereby reduce the consumption of steel, right? So fairly standard stuff. It's been in industry for a long time, but for whatever reason, we didn't use it, right? And there's so many such examples. So in many ways, I think in these challenges, there is opportunities for innovation, opportunities for adopting technology, and thereby reducing or managing your margins and reducing your costs and managing your margins. So it's really about looking at it as an opportunity to drive improvement.
Brilliant. So, I mean, excellent responses. In fact, my own experience, even in TAFE, where I work, we get into strategic alliances with steel majors. We stay on top of market intelligence on pricing trends as well as availability. And based on that, we make procurement and inventory plans very, very carefully, and we also figure out how to continuously optimize. So with that, I will ask my next question. Also, another uncertainty. Actually, it's a positive uncertainty. So sporadic fluctuations in demand, right? I mean, but at least the good thing is the demand is increasing, at least in the last 4 or 5 months, what we have been seeing from April. The businesses are facing huge surge in demand. So what happens, when as we all know, when consumers pull in material or when the consumers pull in any finished goods, the whole value chain needs to react on a dynamic way. And when there is such uncertainty in the demand, it can kind of disrupt the value chain or supply chain. So maybe any one of you can volunteer how to handle such sporadic fluctuations in demand.
I'll take on this
Please.
first and provide the inputs from my perspective. Fluctuations will remain. The market uncertainties will remain. You don't have much control over it. Instead, you need to see how your manufacturing footprint is flexible enough to take care of that. So I would not say that we are doing the optimum, but then we are trying to cope up with that, making sure that you have flexible manufacturing footprint so that you can quickly change over without much of investment. Your order footprints also should be that if certain things goes down, the other things will compensate for that. Just-in-time manufacturing, in fact, you and your supply chain need to be taking care of that. Lower inventory levels. So these are some of the things where majorly you need to focus on so that you can quickly take care of it.
Thank you, Chetan. In fact, I would also echo your view. In fact, one of the programs that we did is called Sell One, Make One program. So any tractor that is sold in the dealership, that information is passed on real time to our plants and to also our supply chain, so that that visibility is made upfront instead of having it cascaded once a week, once a month. So now on a real time basis, almost on a daily basis, such visibility of the demand pull is made available and made transparent. That really helps us with dynamic planning, avoiding the bullwhip effect, which is very, very prevalent if you don't have such strategies. And also, as Chetan mentioned, how do you increase flexibility so that you can make any item in any line or any plant? So how do you do that? And how do you dynamically reallocate capacity to appropriate model mix? So these are all some of the strategies that we have pursued, and I think I am pretty much in line with what you mentioned.
I'll just add on to it that not only the existing production what you have, it's basically you need to be quick to time to market. In fact, earlier the development lead time also used to matter. Now perhaps with the increased technological advancements, you need to see on the rapid prototyping, 3D printing, reduced and virtual ways of testing so that you can quickly cope up with that.
Thank you. In fact, I think you have also answered my next question. So you probably read my mind. The next point, as Chetan touched upon, is higher efficiencies.
Mr. Ashok, I'll just like to add upon to what Mr.
Please.
Chetan has mentioned. I'll give an example of the automobile industry to just explain my viewpoint. During the COVID-19 times, the semiconductor and the microchips manufacturing also taken a severe hit, and they are a key component in the automobile industry. During the COVID-19 times, the demand for luxury items, I could call automobile at that time as a luxury, went down. And after COVID-19, after the pandemic eased out, we've seen a spurge in the demand of the automobiles. Now, one of the challenges that this industry is facing is that how do they cope up to the demands that are being coming from the customers? And along with that, automobile is such an industry where they are required to come up with new models on a regular basis. So to address these challenges, somewhere augmented reality can be used to a certain extent. Just adding to what Mr. Chetan mentioned, that augmented reality can help, to reduce the time between developing a prototype and to actually creating a model, So that is one of the way in which the technology can help. Thanks.
I'll just add one quick thing. I certainly agree with what Viral, Chetan, and you said. I think flexibility, diversification at a strategic level is really important. But just on a practical, tactical level, what I find is important is to make sure you have customer intimacy. So very often as a manufacturing plant, we're reactive, demand has changed or something, right? But somebody in the company probably could have given us a heads up. So we are, as GMF Pfaudler, we are investing a lot of time and energy making sure our sales, marketing, and executives are much closer to customers so that we know, we can sense the cycle even a month before it comes. There is immense value to that. So this is a very softer and tactical element, but I think has a lot of benefit to us.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, in fact, my next question will also somewhat echo with my previous question. So, see, nowadays, higher efficiencies is expected by businesses as well as customers in terms of productivity, cost, delivery, and new product introduction, also environment. So, some of you touched upon about timely introduction of new products to meet customer demands and early engagement with suppliers for capacity enhancement, rapid turnarounds, and really leveraging a digital platform. How do you design a product and how do you communicate that digitally to your operations, to your supply chain? All those things becomes of paramount importance, which our organization has been doing. So could one of you, maybe I will request Chetan, and then we will go to the next person. So Chetan, what is the heightened expectations, both by businesses as well as customers, on productivity, cost, and quality, and what are your views to handle this particular challenge? And it's not new. I mean, it's only getting intensified as we keep going.
Well, if you look into the business challenges, there are majorly three types of goals, which is cost, delivery, and quality. That's what I would envisage. And it's a tough balance between all three. See, you cannot compromise on either. In fact, if you talk about quality, quality is considered to be given now.
Right.
Now, it's not that you can experiment and by the time you would be out of the market. So looking into these challenges, I would suggest that we have to have an optimum balance. And in fact, all the right tools are known, and it's only the question of compliance to those tools, whether it is advanced product quality planning. You already touched upon the better and faster connect, simultaneous engineering, wherein when you make, like I am from an automobile industry, wherein you don't have to do everything yourself. In fact, there are valuable partners and suppliers. So if you involve them for doing simultaneous engineering to design your product, you will be able to do it faster.
That's a wonderful response, because you really touched upon this co-creation of value. See, organizations don't just need to bank on their own capabilities or capacities, and how do we leverage this value chain to co-create value? That will give a lot of very rich dividends. And anything that you want to add, Azim, here? Or any one of you.
I would like to say that when we are talking about Industry 4.0, it is very important that we consider that how technology can bring together all the stakeholders, as Mr. Chetan clearly mentioned, that they will be too relying on external suppliers for, inputs and raw materials. How do you, bring that all your suppliers on the common table, and it's just not the suppliers, your entire value chain, so that there is seamless availability of information to all the stakeholders in that supply chain, I think that is very critical.
Right, yeah, doing everything in a digital collaborative platform really helps working with various stakeholders spread across various geographies. Anything you want to add, Azim, here?
Yeah, I guess since we've touched on the topic of digital platforms and digitization, I'd like to share a few thoughts on this, right? I think right now, if you Google the word digitization, you'll get a bunch of frameworks, you'll get the words like seamless, scalable, as a service, a whole lot of jargon thrown at you. And I think as I talk to my colleagues in manufacturing, there's a fair bit of confusion on what this means. There's a lot of evangelists out there saying, look, this is an imperative without which your organization's done, and so it's really important, I think, to understand what we as manufacturing professionals or people working in manufacturing companies should be doing. I'd like to illustrate this with an example of how we at JMM Fowler are doing it, right? And we're a capital goods manufacturer serving the chemical and pharma industry, essentially. And the way we looked at this is, we said, look, digitization is clearly an enabler. It's actually in many ways the right time to adopt digitization because, as we know, the software is there, the hardware is there, and the data connectivity, all three required things to adopt digitization is available. And yet, it's important to make sure that you know what is the problem that you're solving with digitization as a tool. And so the way we have taken our approach to digitization is we've looked at our core functions, essentially the value stream, starting with sales, extending to marketing, of course, all our manufacturing plants, supply chain, as well as engineering functions. And we have identified areas where we have needs to either improve productivity, quality, scalability, which is another important aspect, or safety, right? Essentially those four, or I think there's a fifth dimension. And then we have tried to identify what are the tools that we can use. So rather than taking a hammer to this topic of digitization and saying we will digitize everything, we've taken a much more nuanced approach and seen where is it that we need to digitize. And then within those, we have a 3-tier structure, which is sort of foundational that says, hey, we need tools. So for example, within engineering, we now have we're discussing putting a PLM in there to make sure that our engineering drawings are saved correctly and securely. But then there's the next step where we can use analytics once that base is built up. And then, we expect there'll be a third step where there'll be a lot of automation or autonomous systems built in. So I think digitization is a big word. It's really important not to think of it as one size fits all and take a much more nuanced approach.
Thank you. In fact, this also dovetails into my next question, which is, with all the new avenues available, whether it's Industry 4.0, now we are also calling 5.0, cloud, AI, ML, and digital twin, all this stuff, my question would be how to leverage these capabilities that are now available, which is increasingly cheaper. Increasingly, it is also made less and less complicated to pursue. And I'll just quickly touch upon how, so maybe in my own experience with TAFE, how we are leveraging it, and then I will ask the esteemed panelists about their experiences as well. So in TAFE, what we have is something called Digital Quality Management System, DQMS, where you all know that a tractor has a lot of very high precision components. And and we don't manufacture a bulk of those parts or components, and they are all obviously bought out from our suppliers. And we have a digital program where as the suppliers make the product in their machine, whether it's CNC cutting, milling, turning, gear cutting, whatever, the dimensions are actually captured And process capability, I mean, the dimensions are transferred to the cloud, process capabilities are measured, and any red flags are raised right away, even while the part is being made at the supplier side, and they get the alert, right? That, hey, your product is, that it's deviating, something of that sort. So this, I mean, such digital mechanisms are available, we just need to be creative on pursuing that, right? So that has been my, one snippet that I thought I will share with you all, and maybe I can start with you, Chetan. So, how do you leverage these technologies?
Well, as you rightly said, it definitely has an advantage. And when we talk of IoT or Industry 4, if I take an example of automotive industries, and for that matter, RSB transmission where I come from, basically, and as Asim has said, that we have to not possibly try and digitize everything, but then see what matters to you the most. Like in phase 1, we have tried to connect the things which will give you better visibility on the availability of the equipment, that means the maintenance, the downtimes, the condition monitoring of the machines, followed by productivity. And of course, in the next phase, we would link with the quality, which is also important, as you rightly said, that the data and the data analytics simultaneously happening. Now, as you would find that it's a very new term now, Industry 5, maybe possibly seen only in Germany or few other countries, where Industry 4 possibly was felt that it would replace the complete human effort, maybe not, where now Industry 5 is talking of the right balance between the two. So we are still not into Industry 5, but then trying to do to the extent possible on the Industry 4.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And how about you?
Well,
Hafiz?
I guess I'll just reiterate like the point I was trying to make earlier, which is you have to know what the end goal is, and be clear that digitization or all these solutions are a means to an end, not an end in itself. And knowing what the problem you're solving and then figuring out how this can help solve it is, I think, the right way to approach it. So we have, at GMM Fowler, we've done it in a number of cases across our functions. But as Chetan said, and I think as Viral also alluded to earlier, it's a nuanced and specific approach.
Anything you want to add, Viral?
So when we talk about leveraging technology, there are many advantages. So I would like to specifically talk about the bringing in transparency and visibility. So that's where, as a logistics player, we can add value to the manufacturing industry. Many clients now would want their supply chain partners to give them visibility about their shipment status, in regards to that, I mean, they would want seamless information of data to be going in from their systems to coming into our systems. And looking at that, at VTrans, we have now moved on to the cloud environment, where we have recently, got a new ERP, and that has helped us a lot in terms of, connecting with our clients, not through, phones, but using, these cloud environment where we can get seamless information from the customers regarding their shipment. Another point is the control towers. So we have set up control towers at 2 locations across India, where we are monitoring the movement of our trucks that ply across India, so that we are able to give the clients the real-time visibility of the status of their shipments. And I would say that with my limited experience with regards to the manufacturing industry, but in manufacturing industry, whether it is discrete manufacturing or process manufacturing, reducing the number of errors, reducing the incidents, safety incidents that might occur in the plant, that's where also, a lot of technological developments have happened. I think a lot of Indian manufacturers are still at the stage where they are conducting POCs for using these technologies. But I think that is a very big aspect in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Viral. Yeah, in fact, you touched upon the control towers, which we have also forayed into, and it gives us end-to-end visibility across the supply chain. with the detailed root cause analytics as well as predictions. And, we are finding it extremely useful. And before I move to the next question, I would also like to touch upon some of these sensors, remote monitoring, and connected devices and IoTs. Like 10, 15 years ago, predictive analytics was such a expert level job with needing so much expertise. Nowadays, it's become extremely simple, to the point of, it has become ridiculous to not do that, right? I mean, some of the sensors, you just snap it on the drives or whichever aspects of your equipment, and all you connect it through cloud, and it's all very easy, right? I mean, plug and play, right? And it doesn't cost a whole lot. So these are the things that the manufacturing world should quickly pursue and see how we can get the best out of it. And I don't recall, but one of you mentioned about AR and VR to visualize and train. Is that you, Asim, or Viral? One of you. You did, right, Viral? So maybe can you elaborate on that, AR and VR, maybe a little bit in detail? How have you used, where have you used, and what are the dividends that you are getting out of that?
So we haven't yet implemented AR or VR in our organization, but I believe that for the manufacturing sector, there is definitely a lot of scope of implementing AR and VR. So AR, as you know, it is augmented reality, where it is a technology that helps you to overlay 3D images, text on a real world environment, so that you can see it in your near space. If I give you a couple of examples, maybe it may not be relevant that much to the manufacturing sector, but if you go look at Nike, Nike has got AR in all its stores, where it gives the customer the experience of trying out different footwear and see how it will go. They can also change the color size and see which color they like. Then Flipkart has, in fact, I think it is Flipkart. Somebody has come up with a Flipkart Labs, where they are also giving the experience to the customers of, going into a digital world and experiencing things in the real-time visibility. As far as the VR goes, VR is completely immersive technology, where it is 100% computerized, and you are taken away into a complete different realm of things. These things are still at a nascent stage, I would say, in terms of as far as the Indian industry is concerned. But from the point of view of better communication, collaboration, reducing the errors, preventive maintenance, forecasting, and obviously giving the customers an enhanced experience, that is where I feel that AR and VR can really play an important role.
Thank you.
If I may add,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with Viral. I think, to be honest, where we've used VR right now is in our marketing tools at exhibitions. So it's not, it's really to tell customers what we do. But practically, we are looking at using AR, not so much VR, in some of the inspections we do, so that our inspectors know exactly what to look for in the equipment we manufacture, etc. Still nascent, but certainly something we are looking at, especially in some of our overseas operations.
And I think one more point that I would like to add is that one of the difference between AR and VR is that in case of VR, you'll typically require an external equipment, like a Google Lens or a Microsoft Google Glass or a Microsoft HoloLens. Whereas in case of AR, it can be connected to your smartphone, your tabs. So with the growing, usage of smartphones in India, I think we could see that AR is, something that would be more acceptable to the Indian manufacturers as compared to the VR.
Right.
Let me just I would like to add.
Go ahead.
Just to add to it, like when we talk about the flexibility, you look into your assembly lines. As of now, because of the uncertainty into the market, most companies would like to work on a flexible workforce. Not everybody would be permanent and fully trained. There'll be a lot of temporary and contractual workforce also. And those people, it's a challenge for you. How do you train them and make your capable workforce and also avoid the mistakes? So your manufacturing processes, you need to assist in such a way. Like I'll give you an example. It's an attempt we are going to make is the virtual work instruction sheets. That means you see the animated images where you see on assembly line one model follows the another, and a different set of components, different set of processes going into it, but moving one after the other. Added to that the challenge of a newer workforce. So that virtual process sheets is going to assist them wherein he can actually see what he needs to be do instead of just going through and reading what it is there. So that is one way of doing it, and assist to it is that not only leaving the inspection to a human being, it could be a camera-based visual inspection techniques where it compares with the master image of the right thing to happen, and it will automatically point out if something is not going right.
Right, so this is what dynamic SOP, and in fact, couple of areas where I will quickly touch upon before moving to last couple of questions. In my organization, TAFE, we use AR and VR for a lot of trainings. In fact, all the paint booth operators, they go through a virtual training session where they can paint with a spray gun, where it's not really a painting, but they can visualize, they can paint, and they practice before they go to some of the manual paint booths where we have, and a good number of our paint booths are automated through robotic paints, but there are certain areas where manual, so we use this technique. And other thing you also mentioned about ensuring quality, so a lot of digital POKOKs that you put in place so that you cannot produce a defect, right? So not just the manual POKOK, which was preached 20, 30 years ago. Now how do you digitally tie that with your MES? So that if an operation has not been done, if it's not torqued right, if a circle loop has not been put, you will not be able to move it to the next station, something of that sort. So moving to my last tail end of the discussion, I think one of the points which was mentioned by Mr. Tyagarajan was leveraging China plus opportunity, right? In my view, I think this is a great opportunity for Indian manufacturers, even though we need to aggressively compete with other countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, and so on and so forth. See, two things that are going very well for us in this space, at least in my view, is one is still the labor arbitrage is there, right? Whether it's auto components, engineering goods, chemicals, or in most places where the labor is of some significance. There we do have a competitive advantage. And when it comes to quality, I would like to say that by and large we are, in many, many places we are world class. For example, if you take a TAFE tractor, whether it's produced in Madurai or in France, the model may be different, but the quality will be on par. So we don't see that we are in any way less than any of our European or American counterparts. So when the quality has been settled, then the cost is there, and there we do have a great advantage, and we need to figure out how to harness this strength. So maybe I would like to ask, starting from you, Viral. So what do you see about this China plus opportunity, and what are your views on this one?
See, in order for, we believe that for India to be able to compete with China, it has to be a joint effort, not only by the government where it induces, policies that are conducive for growth, but also, the leadership of the company, have to take it upon themselves, that to grow this particular sector. I mean, if you go to look at the various government policies, India is aiming to become a 5 trillion economy by 2025, and 25% of that should be contributed by the manufacturing sector. That is the aim that the government has, So while the government is coming up with different type of schemes, the National Manufacturing Policy, the PIELs, it is not just, the government will come out with the incentives and things are going to happen, The leaders will have to adapt if they want to really compete with China, because there are other alternatives that are also cropping up, in the Asian countries. Yeah.
So just before you, one point I would like to just add is we don't necessarily need to compete because it's China plus one strategy. So the world is allowing us to not compete with China, but with other emerging economics. So just a clarification. So over to you, Asim.
Yeah, so I think in many ways, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for India because the geopolitics have now evolved in such a manner that there are tailwinds that we haven't had for 30 years. And so that's, at the same time, we have a government that is actively supporting manufacturing. And so in many ways, this is as good as it's going to get as far as the environment for us is concerned. Look, I think to capitalize on this opportunity, we have to be bold as manufacturing leaders. We have to have a positive sort of growth-oriented mindset, take some risks. Again, I'll give you our example as GMM Fowler. 4 years ago now, we were basically one factory in Gujarat, basically an Indian subsidiary of a large company, of a German company. Now, today we have 3 factories in India. We have actually bought out the parent, so now it's a global company headquartered in India. And at the same time, in India, we have dramatically increased our manufacturing capacity, not just the 3 plants, but the output from each plant. I think the time is now. Of course, there are accompanying risks that we have to be aware of. So therefore, the flexibility that Mr. Sharma talked about earlier, those kind of things we have to take care of. But getting ready to become bigger is critical while driving quality and innovation. So these, I think, these are important areas of focus for us. But it's not the time to be timid, I think is the way I would put it.
Thank you. So the key is the business houses or the entrepreneurs need to believe on this strategy and put the right investments and be aggressive about it. So over to you. Anything you want to add, Chetan?
As rightly spoken by my fellow panel members and you also, the quality is supposed to be given, and if we need to meet the challenges of China or for that matter the other people, we need to make sure that we actually make sure. One is that, of course, the leadership need to be owning and driving the quality culture in an organization, because it's the leader who need to walk the talk. And added to that, as you see, different types of models, similar looking, prevail in different organizations, whether it is Ford or General Motors or Tata Motors or Mahindra's or the other companies, where they talk of built-in quality. That means the various stakeholders get involved, and it's not left only to the quality control function to control it. Whether it in terms of people involvement, ensuring like HR need to help ensure that it's the capable workforce, not able to, flexible enough, not making mistakes, manufacturing processes which are capable. It talks of the capable supplier base, because most of the components come from outside, and a short lead time. Because for that matter, I compliment my panel member also. Logistics also plays an important role, because if you see, many places, the shortages also affect the quality. Now, if the things are available on time, people are there not making mistakes. Encourage the culture of continuous improvement. So these are the things which typically help in making sure that, of course, we need to be continuously working. It is not just a prescription per se, but then we have to actually practice, and it eventually will come.
Thank you, Chetan. So moving on to my last question, I think that lady read my mind. So anyway, this was my last question. So, see, I mean, I'm going back to the age-old topic of strategy, formulation, and implementation. We have been doing this for many, many years, right? I mean, I don't know, last 60 plus years, much before then when I was born. So my nuance to this strategy, formulation, and execution is, in the light of these challenges as well as opportunities, will we need to do anything different on formulating the strategy and putting an implementation plan? Maybe I will ask this question to Asim, and then I will request other members to pitch in. Yeah, go ahead, Asim.
Sure. So, look, I think strategy is about setting direction for the company and basically having actions and plans to execute it. given the macroeconomic environment that we're in, as we mentioned earlier, I think this is the time to be bold. And so while strategy is not something that changes very regularly, you have adjustments to it, I think this actually is the time to perhaps relook at strategy and see where we really want to capitalize on the tailwinds that some of us have. End of the day, I think strategy is great, but execution trumps strategy. So, and then I come back to what Mr. Dhoble and what Mr. Tyagarajan had said earlier about having the right team and organization in place. So it's really important to get the right strategy in place now, but to be able to execute that with the right people ultimately is the most important. So I'll leave it there because I know we're
Sure,
short on
thank
time.
you, Azim. Yeah, so
I'd in fact
just,
like to
just
add
before, give me only one brief second. So you're right. So what, what at least I could figure out is we don't have the luxury for waiting for too long for strategy, putting an implementation plan, getting all the people aligned. All these things need to be dynamic. The cycle time has to be very quick. And we also need to be very, very quickly adaptive to the inputs that are coming in. So that's just one point I would like to add. And over to you. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just like to add to what Asim mentioned, that all the, during the past 2 years, I think all the leadership teams have gone to the drawing boards and created strategies. But it is important to get them executed. And for getting them executed, companies need to adapt and embrace digitalization. Again, it's not that you need to have whatever is there on the platter, but determine, what is essential to your organization and go for it. Another important aspect is also that the team needs to be upscaled, in order to adapt to these technologies and also, upgrade their own selves. And, sustainability has to be at the center of whatever the companies are doing.
Okay, thank you. Anything quickly from you, Chetan?
As rightly said, of course, I also feel that one is the strategy. Not only strategy, setting the direction for the company is important for the future, trying to understand what a customer may expect. It's not something which customer would state, so we have to anticipate think out of the box, and execution of the strategy, which depends rightly on the organization and your team to use the right tools and execute it on time without any errors.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So again, thanks a lot for this opportunity. We absolutely enjoyed being here.
Can we clap for them once again, everyone?